Good morning, everyone. I want to talk to you today about something that can completely transform your life, your philosophy, not your circumstances, not your opportunities, not even your luck, but your philosophy, the way you think about life, the lens through which you see the world. You see, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. And what you are is determined by your philosophy. If you want to change your results, you must first change your philosophy. It's that simple. Some people say, I just don't have the resources. I don't have the time. I don't have the education. And they are right, but only if their philosophy tells them they can't succeed. Because your philosophy is like a map. It guides every decision, every action, every thought. If your map is wrong, you'll end up in the wrong place. So how do you change your philosophy? Start by changing the things you feed your mind. Read more. Listen more. Learn from people who are where you want to be. Surround yourself with those who inspire excellence, not mediocrity. Next, change the way you see problems. Most people see problems as obstacles, but the why see problems as lessons. Each challenge is an opportunity to grow, each setback a chance to build strength. Finally, take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming others. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop blaming the economy. Life will never hand you the success you want unless your philosophy tells you that you are in control. Remember, small change in philosophy can lead to a massive change in results. Start thinking bigger. Start believing more. Start acting with purpose. The day you commit to changing your philosophy is the day your life begins to change. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. So make a decision. Decide to see the world differently. Decide to see yourself differently. Decide to live by a philosophy that lifts you higher, and watch your life transform in ways you never imagined possible. Because success, happiness, and fulfillment are not about what happens to you, they're about who you become. And who you become starts with the philosophy you choose. Your philosophy shapes everything in your life. Every action you take, every decision you make, and every result you see starts with the way you think. Philosophy is not just a set of ideas, it is the lens through which you interpret the world. It is the framework you use to understand yourself, other people, and the circumstances around you. If your lens is small, blurry, or limited, the world you experience will reflect that limitation. If your lens is clear, open, and expansive, the world you encounter will appear full of possibilities. Most people go through life without ever thinking about their philosophy. They react to events instead of responding thoughtfully. They let circumstances dictate their mood, their decisions, and even their future. They believe that life happens to them, rather than understanding that life happens through them. This is why so many people feel stuck, frustrated, or unfulfilled. They are operating with a philosophy that does not serve them, and until they recognize and change it, their results will remain the same. Philosophy is the ultimate guide in life. Think of it as a map. If you have a map that shows only a narrow path, you will stay on that path, even if a better, more rewarding path exists. If your map is outdated, incomplete, or inaccurate, you may wander aimlessly, taking detours, making mistakes, and facing unnecessary struggles. But when your map is accurate, detailed, and thoughtfully created, it gives you direction, confidence, and clarity. The same is true of philosophy. A philosophy that emphasizes growth, responsibility, and learning will guide your actions in ways that consistently produce positive results. Changing your philosophy is not about changing your circumstances. It's not about waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect job, or the perfect relationship. Those things are outside of your control. What you can control is how you think, how you interpret events, and how you respond to challenges. When your philosophy changes, your perspective changes, and when your perspective changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your life changes. This is the chain reaction that creates lasting transformation. The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of your philosophy. People often look at the success of others and assume they had better circumstances. They see the wealthy, the accomplished, the fulfilled, and say they got lucky. They had advantages I don't have. But the truth is that luck and opportunity are only small factors. What truly distinguishes successful people is the way they think. Their philosophy drives them to see possibilities where others see problems. It encourages them to take responsibility when others blame, to persist when others quit, and to learn when others complain. Success starts in the mind long before it appears in your bank account, career, or relationships. Your philosophy also shapes how you perceive challenges and setbacks. Someone with a negative or limited philosophy will see obstacles as permanent barriers. They will interpret failures as proof that they cannot succeed. But someone with a growth-focused philosophy understands that every difficulty is temporary and every mistake is a lesson. The same event can produce two entirely different outcomes depending on the philosophy applied to it. This is why changing your philosophy is so powerful. It changes the way you interpret reality, and interpretation determines your behavior. You might ask, how do I change my philosophy? The first step is awareness. You must begin to observe your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions about life. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself. Do you believe that success is limited or that opportunities are scarce? Do you assume that life happens to you rather than through you? These beliefs are your current philosophy in action. Awareness is the first step because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. The second step is education. Your philosophy can be strengthened by reading, listening, and learning from those who have achieved what you desire. Surround yourself with ideas that challenge your old assumptions and expand your perspective. Fill your mind with knowledge, stories, and principles that encourage growth, resilience, and responsibility. Just as a plant grows in rich soil but struggles in poor soil, your mind flourishes when it is nourished with the right ideas. The third step is application. Philosophy is not meant to stay in the mind, it must influence action. Begin applying your new perspective to daily life. Approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear. Treat setbacks as opportunities to learn rather than signs of defeat. Make choices based on growth and long-term results rather than convenience and short-term comfort. Each time you act according to a new philosophy, you reinforce it. With repetition, it becomes habit, and habit becomes character. Changing your philosophy is not an overnight process. It requires patience, persistence, and self-reflection. But even small shifts in thinking can produce remarkable results over time. Consider that a tiny adjustment in direction on a long journey can bring you to an entirely different destination. Your philosophy is the rudder of your life. The slightest change in its direction can alter your trajectory dramatically. Finally, remember this: life does not give you what you want, it gives you what you are. If you want different results, you must become different. And becoming different begins with changing your philosophy. Invest in your mind. Choose ideas and principles that serve your growth. Look at the world through a lens of opportunity, responsibility, and learning. When you do this, success, happiness, and fulfillment are no longer distant hopes. They become the natural outcome of the person you are becoming. Life is full of challenges, and every person faces problems in one form or another. Some are small and temporary, others are large and life-changing. Most people, however, react to problems with frustration, fear, or avoidance. They see obstacles as threats that block their path, threats that should be escaped or ignored. But the truth is, problems are not enemies, they are teachers. Every challenge carries a lesson, every difficulty contains an opportunity, and every setback has the potential to make you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the future. The way you perceive problems depends entirely on your philosophy. If your philosophy is limited or negative, you will see problems as insurmountable walls. You will focus on how unfair life is, how difficult things have become, and how helpless you feel. But if your philosophy is growth-focused and proactive, you will see problems as stepping stones. You will recognize that. Each difficulty is shaping you, building skills you cannot acquire in easy times, and preparing you for greater success. Consider this. A person who faces a problem with the right philosophy asks, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger? What skills can I develop to prevent this in the future? These questions shift your focus from complaining to creating solutions. Problems stop being obstacles and start becoming opportunities. The difference is entirely in the way you approach life. The same event can destroy one person and elevate another, depending on the philosophy they apply. Challenges are not just unavoidable, they are necessary. Growth does not come from comfort, ease, or certainty. It comes from struggle, persistence, and adaptation. When you face a problem and decide to tackle it, you develop resilience. When you fail but keep trying, you develop patience and determination. When you encounter setbacks, you cultivate wisdom. Problems, therefore, are not signs that life is against you. They are proof that life is teaching you. They are the classroom in which character, strength, and success are forged. Most people fail to see this because they are too focused on outcomes rather than processes. They want immediate solutions, instant relief, or quick fixes. But life does not work that way. True growth comes from understanding that problems are part of the process. By facing them, analyzing them, and learning from them, you equip yourself with tools that will serve you for a lifetime. A problem solved today becomes a problem you will never fear again tomorrow. A lesson learned today becomes a principle you can apply for the rest of your life. Your philosophy also determines how long you are willing to endure challenges. A person with a limited mindset will give up at the first sign of difficulty. They see a problem as proof that they cannot succeed and abandon their goals. But a person with a growth-oriented philosophy sees a problem as temporary, something to overcome. They understand that persistence is key, that effort compounds over time, and that small, consistent steps will eventually lead to breakthrough. Endurance, patience, and perseverance are not innate qualities. They are developed through the consistent practice of facing problems with the right attitude. It's also important to recognize that the magnitude of a problem is often less important than your perception of it. Two people can face the same challenge, yet respond in completely different ways. One becomes paralyzed with fear and doubt, while the other uses it as motivation to grow, innovate, and improve. The key difference is philosophy, the lens through which they interpret the problem. The person who views problems as opportunities is constantly learning, evolving, and becoming stronger, while the person who sees only obstacles remains stuck, frustrated, and limited. To develop this perspective, you must train your mind. Start by consciously reframing difficulties. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" say, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of complaining, ask yourself, "How can I respond effectively?" Small changes in language and thought create shifts in perception that lead to larger changes in action. Your philosophy is not static. It can be nurtured, developed, and refined over time. Another powerful principle is to embrace responsibility. Problems often trigger blame. People blame circumstances, other people, or even themselves in negative ways. But true growth comes when you take responsibility for your response. You may not control every situation, but you can control your actions, your attitude, and your mindset. Responsibility turns problems from burdens into tools for personal development. When you take ownership of your life, challenges become opportunities to prove your resilience, creativity, and determination. Finally, remember that the problems you face today are shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Every obstacle, every mistake, and every setback is part of the journey. If you resist them, you resist your own growth. If you embrace them, you accelerate it. Life is a series of lessons disguised as problems, and the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can harness the power of every challenge. Problems are inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering occurs when you see problems as threats instead of teachers. By changing your philosophy, you stop resisting difficulties and start learning from them. You move from fear to confidence, from doubt to clarity, from frustration to purposeful action. Challenges become milestones, failures become teachers, and life becomes a training ground for success, character, and wisdom. Your philosophy determines whether you are defeated by problems or strengthened by them. Every person has the choice to interpret life in a way that empowers them. Problems are not obstacles, they are invitations to grow. They are the gym where your character is strengthened, your skills are sharpened, and your potential is realized. The key is to see them not as interruptions to your life, but as essential components of it. The mind is the most powerful tool you have, and what you feed it determines the quality of your life. Everything begins with thought. Your ideas, your beliefs, and your philosophy shape your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your results. Yet, many people underestimate the influence of what they allow into their minds. They fill it with negative news, limiting beliefs, and the opinions of those who have never achieved what they desire. Over time, this mental diet becomes their philosophy, and their philosophy becomes their life. If you want to change your results, you must first change what you feed your mind. Knowledge is the foundation of growth, but it is not enough to passively consume information. You must actively seek ideas that challenge your assumptions, expand your thinking, and inspire action. Reading, listening, observing, and learning from those who have achieved what you aspire to creates a mental environment where growth can flourish. The more you expose your mind to excellence, the more your thinking aligns with success, and the more natural it becomes to act in ways that produce meaningful results. Surrounding yourself with the right people is equally important. Just as a seed grows better in fertile soil, your mind grows better in an environment that nurtures growth. When you are around people who think bigger, act with purpose, and refuse to settle for mediocrity, you are unconsciously influenced by their mindset. Their attitudes, their habits, and their principles begin to shape your own. On the other hand, if you spend most of your time with those who complain, doubt, or limit themselves, your mind will reflect their limitations. Influence is unavoidable. Choose carefully who and what you allow to shape your thoughts. The mind is like a muscle. What you exercise grows stronger, and what you neglect weakens. By consistently feeding your mind with ideas that promote growth, you strengthen your ability to think critically, solve problems creatively, and make wise decisions. By neglecting your mind, you allow it to fill with fear, doubt, and distraction, and your ability to navigate life effectively diminishes. Every hour you dedicate to learning, observing, and reflecting compounds over time, producing results far beyond the immediate effort. Learning from others is one of the most efficient ways to expand your mind. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. The successes and failures of those who have walked before you are lessons waiting to be absorbed. By studying their principles, their habits, and their approaches to challenges, you shortcut your path to achievement. The mind that embraces learning grows faster, adapts more quickly, and makes better decisions than the mind that stubbornly clings to old habits and outdated beliefs. It is also crucial to understand that not all learning is equal. Passive consumption of information without reflection, application, or integration is wasted effort. Your philosophy is strengthened not just by knowing, but by applying. When you take a principle you have learned and tested in your own life, it becomes part of your thinking. It moves from theory to practice, from concept to lived reality. This is how knowledge becomes wisdom, and wisdom becomes action that produces results. Your mental diet should include principles, ideas, and stories that inspire, challenge, and elevate you. Avoid the tendency to feed your mind with negativity, gossip, or superficial entertainment that adds little value. Instead, invest your attention in learning about personal development, leadership, health, relationships, and financial intelligence. Every concept you internalize strengthens your philosophy and prepares you to act effectively when opportunities arise. Habits play a significant role in shaping the mind as well. Repetition, consistent practice, and daily routines reinforce the philosophy you hold. A mind trained to think in terms of solutions rather than problems, opportunities rather than obstacles, growth rather than limitation, will naturally make choices that produce success. Habits are the bridge between knowledge and action. They translate philosophy into behavior. When your daily habits reflect your mental diet, your life begins to mirror your ideals. It is also important to embrace curiosity and maintain an open mind. A rigid mind resists growth, while a curious mind seeks understanding. Ask questions, explore new ideas, challenge your assumptions. Curiosity expands your perspective, exposes you to new possibilities, and encourages creative thinking. A mind that is open to learning is never stagnant. Stagnation occurs only when the mind is closed, content with what it already knows, and resistant to change. Finally, take responsibility for the state of your mind. You are the guardian of your thoughts. You control what you allow in and what you give attention to. No external circumstance, news headline, or person can determine your philosophy unless you permit it. By being intentional with your mental diet, choosing carefully the people, ideas, and experiences you expose yourself to, you take control of your life from the inside out. Influence is inevitable, but you can guide it to work for you rather than against you. A mind well fed with the right ideas, surrounded by positive influence, trained through habits and exercise with curiosity and reflection, produces a philosophy that empowers. It becomes easier to see opportunities where others see obstacles, to act decisively when others hesitate, and to persevere when others quit. This is why the quality of your mind matters more than circumstances, luck, or even natural talent. Your thoughts create your philosophy guides your actions, and your actions determine your results. Invest in your mind relentlessly. Feed it with ideas that expand your thinking. Surround it with people who lift you higher. Practice habits that reinforce growth. Reflect and apply the principles you learn. The results will follow. Your philosophy will evolve, and your life will transform. What you feed your mind today becomes the reality you live tomorrow. Taking responsibility for your life is the cornerstone of true growth, success, and fulfillment. It is one of the most powerful principles that separates those who live intentionally from those who drift aimlessly. Many people live in a state of blame, looking outward for reasons why they cannot achieve their goals, why life is unfair, or why others have more than they do. They blame circumstances, society, bosses, family, or even luck for the conditions they find themselves in. While it is true that you cannot control every external factor, the one thing you can control and the one thing that truly determines your life is how you respond. Taking responsibility means stepping out of the role of victim and claiming the role of creator. Responsibility begins with your mind. It starts with the acknowledgement that your thoughts, beliefs, and actions shape your reality. When you adopt the mindset that you are in control, you stop waiting for permission, for perfect timing, or for conditions to be ideal. You recognize that progress begins where you are, with the resources you have, and through the actions you choose to take. By accepting this truth, you unlock the ability to act decisively and purposefully. You move from reacting to life to designing your life intentionally. Many people resist responsibility because it feels heavy. It is easier to blame others than to examine your own decisions. It is easier to point fingers than to ask hard questions of yourself. Yet, the moment you embrace responsibility, you experience a form of freedom that is unlike any other. Freedom does not come from having no challenges. It comes from knowing that no matter the challenge, you have the power to respond, to choose, and to direct your path. Responsibility transforms fear into confidence because you are no longer dependent on external circumstances to succeed. You become the driver of your life, not a passenger. Taking responsibility is not just about controlling your actions, it is about controlling your attitude. Life will not always go as planned. Setbacks will occur, people will disappoint you, and circumstances will change unexpectedly. When you accept responsibility, you take ownership of your emotional and mental response to these events. You decide whether to become discouraged or to become determined. You choose whether to complain or to problem solve. You control the narrative of your life by controlling your perspective. Responsibility, therefore, is both practical and philosophical. It shapes what you do and how you experience life. Another aspect of responsibility is accountability. When you hold yourself accountable for your results, you create a standard of integrity in your own life. You no longer allow excuses to justify inaction or mediocrity. You measure your progress honestly, learn from mistakes, and adjust your strategies without self-deception. Accountability is the bridge between intention and achievement. Without it, ideas remain dreams and plans remain incomplete. By taking responsibility, you commit to being honest with yourself, to following through on your commitments, and to continuously improving. Responsibility also extends to the way you manage your relationships. Too often, people blame others for conflicts, misunderstandings, or disappointments. While others have their own choices, the only person you can truly control is yourself. By taking responsibility for your behavior, your communication, and your contributions, you elevate every interaction. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding thoughtfully. You set boundaries, offer support where appropriate, and lead by example. Taking responsibility in relationships creates respect, trust, and collaboration, transforming the people around you as well as your own experience. It is important to understand that responsibility is not about perfection. It is not about doing everything flawlessly or never making mistakes. Responsibility is about ownership. It is about recognizing that even when things go wrong, you have the power to choose your next step. Mistakes become lessons, failures become opportunities for growth, and setbacks become sources of resilience. A person who refuses to take responsibility remains trapped in a cycle of blame and stagnation, while a person who embraces it turns challenges into stepping stones towards success. Responsibility also empowers long-term thinking. When you take control of your life today, you influence your future outcomes. Every decision, no matter how small, compounds over time. By taking responsibility for your finances, your health, your learning, and your relationships, you invest in your future. You stop living for the moment or reacting to immediate circumstances. You begin to design a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your highest potential. Responsibility transforms short-term actions into long-term results because every choice is made with intention and foresight. Furthermore, taking responsibility creates self-respect. When you own your life, your successes, and your failures, you develop confidence and pride in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. You no longer feel powerless or dependent on external forces. Instead, you cultivate resilience, discipline, and independence. Responsibility allows you to stand tall in the face of adversity because you know that the power to change, improve, and overcome lies within you. Ultimately, taking responsibility is about becoming the author of your own life story. Life is not something that happens to you, it is something you create through your thoughts, actions, and decisions. The challenges you face, the successes you achieve, and the relationships you build are all reflections of the philosophy you live by and the responsibility you take. When you embrace full ownership, you move from being reactive to proactive, from uncertain to purposeful, and from ordinary to extraordinary. The journey of life will always include obstacles, setbacks, and unpredictable events. The difference between mediocrity and greatness is the willingness to accept responsibility for your response. When you do, you harness the power to transform challenges into opportunities, failures into lessons, and your potential into reality. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the most powerful tool you have to shape the life you desire. Every choice you make with awareness and ownership brings you closer to the life you are capable of creating. When you take full responsibility for your life, you step into your true power. You no longer wait. for permission, for luck, or for circumstances to change you, change yourself. Every choice, every action, and every thought becomes a tool to shape the life you desire. Responsibility transforms challenges into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and dreams into achievable goals. It is the bridge between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming. The moment you embrace it, you stop being a passenger in your life and become the driver, steering with clarity, purpose, and unwavering determination. Your future is not determined by chance, it is determined by the philosophy you live by, the choices you make, and the responsibility you claim. Step into it fully and watch your life transform in ways you once thought impossible.